Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, patrons, welcome back to One Mic, and here I am for Mike's Musings 7, finally, after, I guess, teasing it for an incredibly long period of time and never actually putting it out. The sad part is I've had the notes done for quite some time. It really has just been a matter of me getting in front of a camera and recording it, and, I don't know, my life's been pretty hectic lately. I'm trying to find a way to get more time to spend on actually creating the videos and not just watching the content. I've watched enough content to pump out so many videos, and I just haven't been able to find the time to get them done. And then also, if I'm being honest with you guys, it's not encouraging to me to dedicate hours and hours to these videos and just have nobody watch them. You know, it's been, you deal with that in the first year of doing this, even the second year, but now, today's November 2nd. I think my November 26th, I think, is the day that I created the channel. So I will be 3 years in by November 26th, and to still be at the same point, to call it discouraging would be an understatement. And it's discouraging to the point of like, you do struggle to find the motivation sometimes to get up and get on these notes and get on these videos, because it's like, man, I'm doing all this shit. Nobody's gonna, like, I know nobody's gonna watch this video. Like, not right now anyway. Like maybe, 2 or 3 of you guys are going to watch it now. And then maybe if I become like a big fucking deal, people will go back and watch it later. But I'm going to talk about 5 shows in here. That's going to be, who knows how many, we'll say an average of 8 episodes per show, an average of an hour per show. An hour per episode. That's 8 hours times 5 shows. 40 hours of content, however many hours of doing the notes, however long it takes me to record this, however long it takes me to edit it for 3 fucking people to watch it. Yeah, guys, it's sometimes kind of hard to get the motivation to do this. But I don't want to use that as a cop-out for how long it took me to get this done. But all I can say is I apologize for not putting more content on the Patreon. I'm still committed to continuing to do so. I'm still watching all the content. Like I said, it's just a matter of getting the videos done. Going back to the office 3 days a week really fucked me on getting this stuff done. I had 5 days at home before. Now I only have 2. And then on those 2 days, my wife and my infant daughter are also here. So I still don't have that completely unfettered to where I could just, focus on the channel. So really, I went from having kind of like 5 full days to work on the channel to basically none. And that's been rough. But that's enough of me complaining about the issues that I had. Let's get into talking about the shows that I want to talk about in this episode. And I'm going to start with Special Ops Lioness. That one was on Paramount Plus. New Taylor Sheridan joint. He's been pumping them out. This one's not a Western. It's 8 episodes, hour long, give or take. So the concept is that it's an all-female team. They're a special ops team that I get. It's hard to explain. They just do fucking special ops jobs, and in order to attempt to kill a guy who funds terrorist organizations. This Lioness team, this group of these special agents, they send in one woman. Her name's Cruz. Undercover to befriend the guy's daughter, the guy who they want to, the guy who funds the terrorist organizations. They send Cruz in to befriend his daughter, and you got the fact that she's trained for combat, but not for the emotional aspect of it. I enjoyed that aspect of the show. She ends up falling in love with with the daughter. The absence of Zoe Saldana's character Joe and how it affects her husband and her family life, I found that to be interesting. The father is the most sympathetic character of the year. He played the same character on a show called Red Band Society from like 2012-ish, something like that. He was also Lee on the first season, the first episode of Yellowstone. I really enjoyed him on this show. This show has a stat cast. You know, I've already mentioned Zoe Saldana. You got Morgan Freeman. You got Nicole Kidman. Michael Kelly. He was Doug Stamper on House of Cards. LaMonica Garrett. He's a regular on Sheridan stuff. But yeah, I thought this was a very entertaining popcorn show. I've described what I call I've described what I consider to be a popcorn show before, so I'm sure you guys are already familiar with the term. But this show was fun each week. It was exciting. It had a compelling mystery. I enjoyed it. But I didn't think it was anything special. Like, these popcorn shows, when they're well done, they're really entertaining. But they never do anything that feels special or out of the box to me. There's never anything that makes me go like, wow, they really did a great job with this one specific aspect of the show. It's like if you have an album with virtually no skips, but it also doesn't have any great songs on it that you know you're going to want to go back to and play over and over. That's kind of what a popcorn show is like. It's like, yeah, like none of this is bad, but like none of it's really great either. And you kind of got to risk being bad to achieve levels of greatness. And these popcorn shows, like they don't really risk too much. Like they go with what they know is going to work. And popcorn shows, they had a good year this year. And they're good for what they are. You know, this show, The Night Agent was another one that was solid. Rabbit Hole, which recently was canceled. It was solid. That was another popcorn show. Another one, Hijack. Nice little segue here. Into talking about Hijack, it's another popcorn show that does everything well, but nothing great. And like, I enjoyed the shit out of watching Hijack every week, but there's not really anything, again, that I can point to and go, man, they knocked it out of the park with that. And as a matter of fact, with Hijack, there's one thing that I can point to that I thought they actually did pretty poorly, which was handling the events on the ground during the portions of the episodes that weren't in the airplane. But I'll get to that in a minute. But I'm not gonna go where I'm not gonna go where I thought I was gonna go. I'm just gonna continue. So, Hijack's on Apple TV Plus. It's 7 episodes, again, about an hour piece. I think most of them probably fall in the 40 to 50 minute range, same for Lioness actually, but we'll just say an hour, just to, you know. I don't want you to think it's a quick 30-minute watch either, so we're just gonna call it an hour. So Hijack stars Idris Elba as a guy who's flying home to try to win back his wife with jewelry when his plane is hijacked. And he's a negotiator in real life, and he's really motivated to get back to his wife, so he takes it upon himself to try to get out of this situation. And you're probably wondering, a movie about a plane getting hijacked and a passenger has to try to stop it? All right, well, I've seen that 1,000,001 times. What makes this show any different? Nothing. Nothing makes this show any different. It's exactly what you would expect, and it's special in no way other than the fact that it does all of those things you'd expect it to do really fucking well. Like I said, again, it does everything well. Not everything. Like I said, I didn't like the ground stuff, but like it does mostly everything really well. It just does nothing great, and there's nothing that really stands out as a unique or special aspect of this show. And like I said, I remember being quite dissatisfied with the one aspect. So the show was split into 2 separate plot lines. What was happening on the plane and what was happening on the ground. And obviously the plane stuff's what you expect. You know, attempts at taking back the plane, trying to send messages without getting caught, surprising shootings, things like that, etc. Nothing that's going to surprise you, but stuff that's all pretty compelling and fun to watch, whatever. the stuff on the ground was essentially the authorities trying to figure out what's happening on the plane and how they can get it to land safely. We also learn about Sam, that's Idris Elba's character, his personal life and his situation with his wife. And I remember being irked that the stuff on the plane was so compelling, and then they'd cut to the stuff on the ground, which could be equally compelling in a different way, only for that stuff to just be spinning its tires in place the whole time. Like, this season was 7 episodes, and I shit you not, after 3 episodes, the people on the ground still didn't even know if the plane was actually being hijacked or not yet. It was 3 episodes of them contacting the plane and someone with a gun to their head saying everything was fine, and them going, I don't know if I believe this or not. I believe it. Do you? No, I don't believe it. Okay, and that was it. And, like, obviously I'm being a bit facetious here, but, like, I'm not totally far off. Like, I just feel like if you're gonna do a plane hijacking movie or TV show, it should immediately justify its existence in a world with 8 million other movies or shows about plane hijackings. And, like, I'm not gonna say this one didn't, because, like I said, it did most things really fucking well. In a genre that historically does everything wrong. It's well acted, it's well written, again, aside from the ground stuff, and it can be pretty riveting at times. But, you know, it's a really good show, it's an exciting show, and it will keep your attention for 7 episodes, and you'll probably really enjoy it, but it's just not special in any kind of way. Like, I could use those exact same complimentary words to describe shows that have been on the CW. Like, I readily acknowledge that virtually everyone who watched this show liked it more than I did. Fine. I'm probably being too hard on it, but you'll probably like it more than I did, just like everyone else does. But hey, I'm here to give my thoughts. That's what they are. Really, really, really good show that does absolutely nothing special. It's your run-of-the-mill good fucking popcorn show. It's no better than anything you might have seen on Fox. I take that back. It's not no better than anything you would have seen on Fox, but like I said, it to me, it's not special in any particular way. I thought the stuff on the ground was pretty weak, and yeah, like I said, it did the stuff that it does well, really fucking well, and it is worth watching. I do say, like, hey, if you're interested in this show, don't let it doesn't do anything special deter you. It's a worthwhile watch, but that's just why I'm saying, like, it's not one of those things where it's like it's gonna end up on my top 10, because, like I said, it doesn't do anything special. Moving on. Let's talk about Ashoka. If you are a fan of Daily DVR, which is a Facebook group that I'm in, and a podcast series that I listen to, you've probably heard me on some of those podcasts talking about Ashoka. But I did want to talk about it here, just to get my thoughts out there officially on my own network. Oh man, so. No, I was thinking about maybe changing and talking about something different, but I'm going to stick with talking about Ashoka right here. So, Ahsoka's the latest entry in the Star Wars TV universe. It just, it didn't just air. It just aired its 8th and final episode when I made these notes, but that was quite a long time ago. Each one clocking in close to an hour with your customary 15 minutes of end credits that you get with Disney Plus shows. It stars Rosario Dawson as the lead/title character, Ahsoka Tano. We saw Ahsoka in canon on The Mandalorian, but Ahsoka is largely well known in the Star Wars universe from the animated shows, The Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels. The two shows collectively are somewhere within the range of 200 total episodes, so that's a lot of backstory you'd have to wade through if you wanted to be fully prepared to watch Ahsoka, but therein lies the rub, because I am strictly of the belief that I should not have to do homework in order to enjoy your show. It can enhance the show, cool. But I shouldn't need to have to have seen other stuff in order to enjoy your completely new show. And Filoni and the folks behind Ahsoka apparently don't agree with that viewpoint, because they consistently try to mine emotion out of events that the audience for this show didn't fucking see. And usually, I'm sorry, I think I said the audience for this show. They're trying to mine emotion out of the audience from events that they didn't see. I tried to say that the audience for the show didn't see it. That's not the case. The audience for the show, the people who did see it, they're fine. But the people who just like, I've watched The Mandalorian, I've watched Boba Fett, let me watch this new one. Y'all, if you didn't watch Rebels and Clone Wars, this shit ain't for you, and they weren't fucking thinking about you. Usually there's some gray when answering the question of whether or not you can enjoy a show or movie based on established IP if you haven't already consumed that IP. There's no gray here. If you haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels, this show wasn't even made for you, and you were not considered in any of the decisions. Like, can you still find enjoyment in the show without having seen Clone Wars and Rebels? Yeah, of course. But again, don't expect this show to cater to you. It won't. Additionally, this show dragged. Like, I mean, I'm talking episodes on top of episodes with no plot advancement whatsoever, and advancing character beats that, you're only going to be familiar with or care about if you either did the homework or saw Rebels or Clone Wars. So, the main premise is that Ashoka and her team have heard that there's a chance that a bad character from the show that you won't know or care about if you haven't seen it could actually be alive, and that another good character from those shows that you wouldn't know or care about if you haven't seen them, he could also be alive as well. And they could have spent time helping us understand the importance of these characters, but again, if you didn't watch Clone Wars or Rebels, they don't give a fuck about you in the first fucking place. This show ain't for you because they expect you to understand all that shit coming in. And they talk about it a little bit, yeah. They lay out that General Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn being alive is really bad, and that their friend Ezra being alive is desirable. But that's not enough to make me care. And all the stuff that I needed to see/experience is in Rebels. And here's the thing. I've seen a lot of Rebels. Like, I know these characters and I'm familiar with their past. But I'm not watching fucking Rebels. I'm watching Ahsoka. And like I said up top, I shouldn't have to do homework to enjoy your show. And I'm watching this show like nobody's gonna care about this shit if they haven't seen Rebels. You know, I'm watching the show piss away hour after hour. Like, you know, they lay out the mission that they need to find Thrawn and then make no progress toward finding Thrawn for like 3 episodes. Like, and it was maddening. Now, the show does have its moments. It's got some great cameos, and if you did watch Rebels, it's got some treats for you, obviously. But, you know, it's got some solid action scenes. Some of the visuals on this show are just next level beautiful, man. But when you end your season that spent most of its time dragging its feet, resolving virtually nothing, and continuing to kick cans down a road that you don't even know how far it goes because you don't know if you're going to get a second fucking season anyway, you don't get a great result. But hey, if you stand for Clone Wars and Rebels, this might be your jam. But like, for me, this season felt like a complete and total waste of time that is setting up, and it felt like set up for something that we might not even fucking get. And that is real fucking disappointing, you guys. Let's see, what I got left? Two more shows. So, next I want to talk about Justified City Primeval. I don't need to spend a ton of time here because I started to cover this show on the channel in full and I stopped. But Justified City Primeval was one of my most anticipated shows of the year because the original run of Justified is one of my favorite shows of all time. So I was really, really looking forward to this one. And Justified City Primeval ran on FX earlier this year. It would hit Hulu the following morning. Ran for 8 episodes. It featured almost an entirely new cast, but retained, of course, the one actor necessary to call it Justified and to get people to come back and watch it. That being Timothy Oliphant. The original run of Justified took place in the 2010s, and it was an outstanding show. It stood out because it did 2 things really fucking well. It had a great protagonist and a fairly lengthy line of great antagonists to put up against him. And these characters were well written too, like due in no large part to being from Elmore Leonard books rather than being new creations. You know, Timothy Oliphant, he shined as Raylan Givens, one of my favorite actors, Walton Goggins. He served as his foil, Boyd Crowder, throughout the show's run. Boyd was like legit the Joker to Raylan's Batman. So I came into CD Primeval with pretty high expectations. I didn't expect to see Walton Goggins, and I also knew that the showrunner from the original show, Graham Yost, he wasn't returning either, as he was busy crushing it over on Apple TV with Silo. But despite those things, I did still have high hopes for this show. So imagine my surprise to watch this and immediately crown it the biggest disappointment of 2023 with several months remaining in the year, because everything that was great about Justified, the original show, was absent here, including the great protagonist. You know, I learned that part of what made Raylan great was having a great antagonist to help him look like more of a badass. Boyd Holbrook's Clement was... To say he's the worst Justified villain isn't harsh enough, because you could be a great villain and be the worst Justified villain. He was just terrible with no fucking asterisks at all. Like, Justified villains are intimidating, which is why Raylan looks like such a badass with how he handles them. Clement was just someone who walked around in his fucking drawers, living off his reputation that we never learned how he earned. You know, one of the worst scenes of this season was when he showed how tough Clement was by having him berate a waitress over steak. Like, he came off like somebody who would prompt another customer, just a regular civilian, to slap the shit out of him. No Raylan needed. Like, this guy does not come off intimidating at all. He just comes off like a pussy who treats people like shit and needs to be humbled. The story was terrible and uninteresting, but Justified for me was always driven by tension and the tug of war that existed between Raylan and his adversary. And again, absent here. You know, on the rare occasions they had confrontations, there was no tension for me because Clement just seemed like a fake fucking tough guy. And, you know, they focused more on the story, which, if I'm being honest, it was really, 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 really weak. I don't necessarily know or am asserting that the Elmore Leonard story that this is based on is weak. I haven't read it, but I assume it's probably good. I'm assuming the fuck up came in adapting it for TV, and you could really feel the absence of Graham Yost, the original showrunner. Like, this is one of those rare shows that I disliked it so much that I'm going to leave incomplete coverage of it on the channel, because I just don't feel like devoting that many more hours to something this shitty. Like, my recommendation on this is weird, though, because honestly, I might have liked it if it wasn't Justified. And I don't know that for sure. I'm never going to find out. But if it was just a regular show with this story and these characters that didn't bring any expectations of Justified, maybe I'd have liked it. But they called it Justified, and that comes with certain expectations, and this show did not meet those expectations. So if you've never seen Justified, maybe you'll enjoy this. But if you've seen Justified and you love Justified, don't let this show fuck that up for you. Do not watch this. It's not Justified. It has Timothy Olyphant. He is playing a guy named Raylan Givens, but it ain't Justified. It ain't Raylan Givens. It's not enjoyable. If you love Justified, don't watch it. It's not. It doesn't work. It's not good. And it will be my biggest disappointment for 2023. Now I'm going to close out talking about The Gold, which is a show that recently wrapped up on Paramount Plus. It had a new episode that dropped every Sunday, I believe. It had 6 in total. It was based out of the UK, and it's also based on a real story, the Brinks-Mat robbery at Heathrow International Trading Estate in 1983 London. The crew doing the job was expecting to steal money, but unexpectedly stumbled upon 3 tons of gold bullion. And bullion is a fancy term for those pure gold bricks you've probably seen on TV and in movies before. But the show isn't about the robbery itself necessarily. It's about the process of the robbers trying to convert the gold bricks into usable wealth via pretty extravagant forms of money laundering. And there are several steps in this plan, each one more important than the last. And it's really difficult to launder something that is a very literal eye catcher and worth 26 million pounds without drawing attention to yourself. And this show is one of those shows and films, this happens with movies too, where I see and I appreciate a lot of the great things that the show is doing, but I just don't find it that entertaining. It's well written, it's well acted, it's even a compelling story. But the way the show is structured, it just didn't work for me. Like, for starters, each episode features a lot of talking about things that just aren't interesting. So you just know that up front. I really struggled to get that sentence out. I personally find the idea of how do we make use of these gold bricks we didn't expect to have to be interesting. So when they talk strategy, I'm cool with that. But broadly speaking, this is pretty boring stuff. Like how they try to figure out where it went, what strategy the kidnappers might have had for not just getting away with it, but how they plan to launder it and convert it into something they can use. The problem comes for me when a lot of that conversation or activity doesn't make sense until the end of the episode. Each of the episodes, not all of them, but I feel like maybe like the first, maybe like 4, they end with something of like an unexpected turn of events that makes sense because of what you've seen in the episode leading up to that point. The problem is that even though we've now gotten the payoff, it doesn't make the 40 minutes that preceded it any more interesting or any less boring. Like by the end of the episode, I can go, oh, so that's why they did that thing, which is always a cool feature when that happens. When I spent 40 minutes kind of bored to get to it, doesn't really work for me. You know, this is one of those shows where like I like watching it and I want to know what happens, but it's tough to recommend because I feel like most people, myself included sometimes, are going to be like, man, this shit is dragging with a whole lot of uninteresting dialogue about land development and smelting. and that's kind of what this show is. You get like a whole lot of like, this is what they'll need to do to move the gold, so this is what we'll have to stop. You get that kind of conversation for like the majority of the episode. Then the police go to do the thing and something happens at the end and you're like, oh, that thing from earlier makes sense now. And that's kind of every episode. And the best I get is that thing from earlier makes sense now, not holy shit, that was fucking cool. And when you've spent 40 minutes sitting through dry ass conversations to get to the peak and all you get is that thing from earlier makes sense, it doesn't feel worth sitting through the episode or worth it for me to recommend the show to you. Like I said, I could tell it was a very well-made show, but spent a lot of time dragging and just being boring to get you mildly interested at the reveal at the end of the episode. I thought it closed out strong in the final 2 episodes until it got to the very ending, and it did the laziest fucking setup for a second season to where it was so irritating that I'm like, I'm not even gonna watch the second season because that was such a fucking cheap way of setting it up. Fuck you for that. So like, I make this show sound like it's a bad show. It's not, but it just did things that particularly offend me. Like I said, they might not bother you guys, but irritated me. So before I go, I don't have the next Mike Musings planned out or anything in its entirety just yet, but I'll definitely talk about the 3rd season of Lupin, which had premiered by the time I wrote these notes, but I'm already done watching it now. I feel like Loki will also be on Mike's Musings 8. I think there is 2 episodes left of Loki as of right now. Full coverage of Marvel shows doesn't do well on the channels. That would overstuff Fridays as well. So, yeah, that'll end up on Mike's Musings 8. I don't know what other 3 things I have. There's stuff that I'm just not thinking of, I'm sure. I just finished season 2 of Dark Winds and season 1 of Bodies on Netflix, but I think I'll probably do just a regular video and put that on the channel for those 2 shows rather than including them into Mike's Musings. And then some of these other things that I'm just kind of like watching in my spare time. Maybe I'll talk about like the Golden Bachelor or some shit in Mike's Musings 8. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll figure that out. Hopefully there won't be 18 months between this one and the next one. And I will see you guys whenever that is. And until then, peace.